Welcome to the Insurance Buzz. We are your hosts, Michael and Courtney Weaver. We just got back from Costa Rica. We are excited. But the one thing we did in Costa Rica is we disconnected for 3 weeks. No work, no social media, nothing. And that's what we want to talk about today. Are you tired of being handcuffed to your business? And if you are, this episode's for you.
We're going to break it down. We're going to set up exactly how we did this and what we went through to prepare for this. And then what it was like while we were actually disconnected, like what it did for ourselves, for our relationship, and for our business. So let's jump right in.
Yeah, and I think a good place to start is we were actually tested somewhat back in September when we were going through our IVF journey.
Yeah, and I think that when we were talking about this before, it was, it's not always vacation. And there are things that sometimes are out of your control that you have to step away from your business for a little bit. So we went through that in September. It was unsuccessful. And we needed just a week to grieve. I mean, it was incredibly difficult. And there are things that happen in your life. Maybe it's not vacation or maybe it's not that, but maybe you lose a loved one and you need time to grieve, or maybe you're in the hospital or there's an accident. I mean, things happen, and you want to make sure that as best you can, that you have the time, space, and energy to heal and your business continues to run and thrive.
Absolutely. And I think that's why that in September we were tested when that happened, and look, there were some holes in the plans then, and there were some times when I had to jump back in when maybe I didn't want to that week, and so that was eye opening and really because to give you a snapshot on what we've done is we really went back for really the last 6 to 7 months, and we have reestablished a foundation within our business and getting the right people teamed up with us, from making sure that you were doing SOPs for every single thing in the business, reestablishing job duties, descriptions, who's responsible for what. And so that started probably May or June, if I had to guess.
Yeah, so there's going to be some prep work that you're going to want to do before you go on the trip. Or before you have time that you're going to be away, or maybe it's right now. We're at the beginning of the year and you're like, all right, Let's go ahead and focus on the foundation and the structure of this. So yeah, we went back. This was in the summer. And we really started pulling apart every person on our team and what were they responsible for. And did we have documentation of every task or responsible project from start to finish? And I think that it's huge to not only have it written, but I'm a visual learner, so I like to have a lot of videos too. Does everyone have everything that they need to be successful? Do they have all the logins? Do they have, any kind of document or access to programs? And then communicating what is starting, where do we start? Who's responsible for that? And then what does done look like?
Yep.
And really having that documented in a consistent flow. And then again, I like to have a video that accompanies that. This is a lot of upfront work. And I'm not going to dance around that, because when you look at that, especially for somebody like me, I think, holy shit, it's just quicker if I just do this because I know how to do this.
Well, not only that, we were also 4 years into the business. And so we had a great established business. I mean, at that point in time, we had probably 18 total folks working with us when we started this new journey. Yeah. 7-figure business, really good established business. We had good processes and systems, but not every process and system was documented on SOP. Not every process and system had a video recording attached to it that was, okay, this is start to finish. And also breaking it down is we had to team up with some new contractors, some new people we had to get rid of and go in a different direction. And so I want to share that because no matter how far along you are in your business, maybe you're just starting off and you're like a one man show, or a small team, or maybe you are 5 years in, it's never too late to go back and make sure that everything is tight, that your processes and systems are tight, that your people are tight. Put a stress test on your business, which is really what we're going to get into today, but the lead up to that stress test, and that's what we want to walk you through.
And I think it's important to mention, for me, when I look at this, and I'm not going to speak for you, but if you have a business that's running, the wheels are turning, thinking, okay, if I focus on this, if I focus on, this person doing this job and this task, how does that impact revenue and growth? Because as a business owner, that's what you're looking at a lot of the time, is growth. And that's really freaking scary, because it's like, oh God, if I put the pot, like, what does this look like? So I don't want to dismiss that if you're listening and you immediately have this, like, rash that takes over your body. Know that I am the exact same way, because I'm a control freak. I like to know exactly, if I push this button, this is what happens. And
you think?
Oh,
just
man.
Slightly, just a little bit of a control freak?
I am. I would love to say that I've been working on it and done my meditation and I'm living like a monk, Jay Shetty. But it's still really scary when you start a business to think, I have to give this to somebody else and I have to trust that they will complete it in a way that not only that it actually gets done, but it gets done to the standard and integrity that we have for our organization, our company. So yeah, I'm a freaking control freak.
As am I. All right. So look.
So this is perfect for control freaks. Let's just give it to somebody else and see how it goes.
But I would assume that a lot of the audience, type A's, Enneagram 3s, more than likely, like a lot of business owners are type A personalities, like bam, bam, bam. So first, where we start? We started with really going in and reevaluating our team. Mm-hmm. So we did really just a report card almost on our teammates, our third-party contractors, and started visiting with them. And then we went through. So
I think it's important to. I'm sorry to interrupt you here, but
I'm used to it.
When you look at your team, you have to look at it as a whole. That's what we did. Is we looked at it from the whole. And I'm going to echo. You look at your contractors. But also who's responsible for what. And I think the first thing is anyone overlapping?
Yep.
Or is there a breakdown?
Yep.
So that's where we kind of start with the team is, first, is there any overlaps? Second, is there any breakdown? Third, are these the right people for the job? Yep. And I think that's where you were headed. But I want to make sure and mention that, because sometimes you have one person doing 50%, another person doing 50%. Can one person instead of two people carry it the way? Or are we just double dipping essentially in
absolutely
one
well
category?
I think the one thing that needs to be said, the reason why we started on this journey is because, look, in business, what gets you to the point you're at today is more than likely not going to get you to where you want to go. And that's what we had really determined when we looked at our big goals. Not only that, we were still doing a lot in the business even just 7 months ago. So did we want to be hand-tied to the business or handcuffed to the business if we wanted to travel, if the IVF situation came up, if a funeral happens, like if you need time to grieve or maybe you need time to have some fun, like how long can you be away from the business and it continue to operate without you there? And so that's where and I'll tell you the other place where we started is the point of contact. So we could either have promoted within our business, mm-hmm. or we chose to go outside of our business and hire someone with the skill set that we thought not only brought an amazing skill set to the table, but also that we thought would be better than we were in certain areas of our business. And so we hired a COO to really start this transition and process. The point of contact that if we're not there, this person's in charge.
Yeah, she taught us the corporate word for that is a SPOC. It's a single point of contact. But it's incredibly important too, because if you are in any kind of partnership, and if you're a parent of any sort, you understand what I'm saying. If there are two people that are running a company, it's like mom and dad. They're going to maybe there's some questions on who do we go to. I'm going to answer it differently than you're going to answer it. So this just eliminated a lot of confusion. And I think clarity and communication are really what's going to set you up to have some time away. So single point of contact.
Single point of contact. And look, and you can definitely, again, have a point of contact within. You have to have a point of contact within your business besides just you.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in that. But I just thought, or we thought, that hiring outside instead of promoting within, we were really looking at a skill set to hire that had a history of proven skills and abilities that we thought we were weak in as leaders and managers and things of that nature. So that's how we arrived at that decision. And then upon hiring this individual, then we went through and we reworked all the SOPs in every aspect of our business, making sure those were tight. And then we began the delegation process of the SOPs to the people that were already there, and we hired some new people as well.
Yeah, asking, sometimes you're in a position for maybe a few months, maybe a few years, and you know how to do it like the back of your hand, but could you teach it? And really sitting down and going through every single process of like, what do you do on a daily basis? What's the first thing you do when you get here? Like, walk me through this entire thing and documenting all of that.
All right. 1 second.
Yeah.
Because this is an area where you struggled. I struggled. So we created an SOP. We delegated to the individual. However, what we both found ourselves doing is the job wasn't getting done as quickly as we'd like to get it done. So we would jump back in.
Take it back.
We would do it.
Yeah.
And then just tell them like, oh, don't worry about it. I got it done this week. All right.
I don't know. Don't ask me how to change. Like, I don't know. I still.
You're a recovering delegator, non-delegator. Like
I am a recovering a lot of things.
but how have you went through because this has been a look. I know what my journey is.
You're better at this than I am.
So I'd like for you to talk about your journey over the next 7 months of getting better at that delegation, empowering process. Like,
you want me to be totally honest here?
Always.
Okay. I have to walk away. That's literally my thing. Because if it's not getting done as fast as I would like it, because I'm a fast mover. I just like to get shit done. Like, that's just how I am. That's how I operate. Because the quicker I can get it done, the more fun I can have. Like, let's keep it moving. So.
And just to clarify.
Yeah.
Usually there's a deadline, but you're wanting to jump in before the deadline, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're not actually giving people the opportunity to.
No, I'm not giving
it done.
No.
Okay.
No. No, I'm not letting that happen. So I don't really have an answer for you because here's a prime example. We're on podcast right now. We're recording it. And one of the things that I love to do is really like look at the flow of the podcast, who's coming up, what guests do we have lined up, what's the content. And I have delegated that out. And even coming back from our trip, I'm trying to take that back. And so our COO, Jody, is like, hey, I love you. Are you taking this back? Because this is we have a whole process here. So for me, it's really walking away, not checking my email as much, and trusting that I have giving them a chance. Like, I have the right people in the right position and not trying to jump in and do it my way before it actually gets done, because 99% of the time when it's done and I've delegated it to the people who have the skill sets for it, it's done way better than I would have done it. I would have just done it my way. So I don't know. I don't have an answer for you there.
Well, no, and
it's a hard thing.
It is super hard. As you know, I struggle with the same thing. But I have gotten better over the last 7 months because I'm just like, just do it. Because I've seen how much free time it has allowed me. Because at the end of the day, this, my goal would be to, if I want to walk away from the business tomorrow, it still operates regardless if I'm there or not. Now, interesting business because obviously I love to train, I love to coach. I don't foresee myself ever doing that, but the wheels can't just fall off, because if you don't trust your team enough for them to do it, then you're always going to have a job. Like you're never going to have a true business. No matter how much you love working in the business or not, like, man, and your team deserves it too, is my feelings.
Well, I don't know if it's that I don't trust my team. I think for me, and I'm only going to speak for myself, and you listening might relate, you might not relate, but I have found a lot of my value and my worth in what I do in a profession, in my career. And so when I start delegating those things out, I start looking at myself and going, where's my value here? What am I adding to the organization? Especially as a business owner and as a leader, you're looking around, your role starts to shift as your organization grows, as your business grows. And so that's something that I'm still trying to navigate is when I delegate all of these tasks that I've done, again, what got me here won't get me to my next spot. What is my day filled with? What's the best use of my time? So that's why I say I have to walk away, because if not, I'm going to be very task driven and trying to just cross things off, which was the first few years of our business. It's the first few years of any business, is really tackling, how do I keep the lights on? How do I put food on my table? And then as it grows, other people are there that are there to support you and help you grow the business. And then you have to start identifying, okay, what do I do when I have free time? What do I do to have free time? What does that look like? So I don't know if that's necessarily in line with what we're talking about today, but I think it's important to mention, because you might be listening to this thinking, okay, that's all fine and dandy, but then what do I do with my time? And know that I'm still struggling with that too.
You do what you enjoy.
Yeah.
I mean, you're never going to, especially in the very beginning, like, I've never enjoyed every task I've ever had to do, every job duty, but by having a team in place and getting comfortable and confident with that delegation empowerment process, that has allowed me to focus more on the things that I actually enjoy doing within the business. And it just so happens to be that I enjoy the things that help the business grow, maybe not the day-to-day like task. If that makes sense, which are just as important. Oh, yeah. And there are things that only my face and my voice and my sound can do. So how are you, what are you doing since you are no longer doing as many day-to-day tasks? What are you doing to make sure that you feel productive or valuable or worthy at the end of the day? That's a loaded question. But I think in the business, my main focus now is all about people. So it's all about business development. It's all about networking. It's all about leading. It's a different type of business ownership, because now it's pouring into everyone else around me. So feeling productive for me is watching now my team have success and really building relationships that are not just transactional, but really just fill me up. I mean, like, one of my favorite things to do is the podcast, because we get to connect with so many amazing people, and we might not be able to directly serve each other in this moment, but at some point we may go on a vacation together or whatever. So I think that's really my focus. My focus will always be people, content. How do I make somebody feel? Yeah. That's just who I am to my core. And being okay with the fact that I've had to give up the tasks and know that I know that I'm still going to try to pull those back. I know that's just something that I'm working through, and having people around me that check me on that. I think it's incredibly important to say, like, you gave me this. You gave me this deadline. Let me do this. Leave me alone. Like me calling your ass out the other day in the leadership meeting. I'm like, what? We delegated this. We were gone for 3 weeks. Why are you trying to take it back? The team's done it. They're all like, leave me the fuck alone. and I think that speaks a lot about, the culture that you build is knowing that you're a human being. Like, you're a leader. Like, you're still navigating this too, just like your team. So we kind of went off on the weeds a little bit. But we did kind of get off, but I think that's really, I think it's really important, because that's something, if we're struggling with it, others struggle with it too from that delegation empowerment process. And so I think that number one is you have to admit, like, dang, I might have a problem with delegation. I might have a problem. So you have to admit the problem, but then what is the overall solution to the problem, and I think that's something we're still navigating through, but I think it's trusting your team and giving like communicating what is done, communicating a deadline, and then actually being patient with the team, and as long as they get it done by the deadline, then that's it. Like they did it great.
Well, and we've had to, I think a point of contention for me is we've had to make a lot of adjustments over the past year of who's in what seat. And I think pay attention to when you have those frustrations, especially in business. If there's something that is happening over and over and over again, do something about it.
Yep.
Like either they're in the wrong seat or you have the wrong person. And be brave enough, because I know it's scary to make moves in your business, make changes, to let people go, to change their position, but know that it is in the best interest, as hard as it is. So I think that that's part of it. But let's jump into what we did before we left, because there was a lot of communication we had to do before we were gone for 3 weeks.
Yeah. So just to recap just real fast. So this process started ultimately about 7 months ago. So it would have been May or June of 2022. So 2022 was a rebuilding / foundational building year for us at Weaver Sales Academy. So we hired a point of contact, really a COO, helps run our business. It could be a manager within your business, whatever that is.
An assistant.
Assistant, yep. Whoever the point of contact is when you're not there. Then we dove into SOPs. So standard operating procedures for the entire business. So processes and systems not only documented, but also on video. We really focused on, once we had the SOPs done, okay, now do we have the right people in place to actually execute these SOPs? So we went through and made sure our team was in the right place, and then worked on the delegation of those SOPs to the team. And so now we're, fast forward 5.5, 6 months to before we go. And so about a month out, I would say, before we isolate ourselves for 3 weeks, to where, and when we say disconnect, like we were totally disconnected. No emails, no phones, no social media. Transparently, I think because Jody, our COO, and Courtney are best friends, so they would talk on an individual level every now and then, just to check on really the kids, our little fur babies, Rocky, Lola, and Phoenix. But other than that, we didn't talk business the whole time. No work, no nothing. And so, and nor did we really talk to people. Like phones were on airplane mode the whole time. So that tells you what we just were planning or preparing for. So about a month out, we started communicating to everyone like, hey, okay, so we're going to be gone for 3 weeks, no contact, don't reach out to us. My house burns down. As long as the kids survive, everyone survives, I don't care. I'll deal with it when I get back. Like, we do not want to be contacted. So what do we need to do over the next month?
Yeah. So I think we went through, this is where you really have to look at, okay, what am I still responsible for? Who is still turning to me? And how do I start offloading that onto that single point of contact? So for us, that requires a lot of upfront work because we are so content focused. There's a lot of production. So I would start looking at that now if you're trying to prepare for that. Is there anything that you can do ahead of time that will put you ahead of schedule when you come back? So that would be the first thing. Obviously, communicating to all of those people that you are going to be gone. I think that's important. I think it's important to communicate to your customers too. This is where I know a lot of insurance agents in particular don't like to communicate that they're going to be on vacation because they don't want to hear well, that's where my premium dollars are going.
Well, shit, man. So what? You're not human. You don't deserve a vacation. You don't deserve a holiday. You just work all the time.
But we always did that, and I think that it is important to be a human being to your customers, and giving them a heads up.
Relatability.
Yeah, you're human. And letting them know that you're going to be, out of the office. People just want to know that somebody is going to be there to answer their question if they have it. Period. End of story. So I would start preparing that. I would start, letting people know this is what's going to happen. If you have that, if it's a vacation, if you don't, if it's unexpected, you still have your single point of contact that you know that they're going to take everything over. I think something that you should do right now, regardless of where you're at in your business, whether you're here or not, is have somebody that checks all your communication. Have somebody that's responsible for helping you with your emails, your text messages, your mail that you're getting, your physical mail. Have somebody that's helping you with communication so they understand what the flux is in your, I mean, you may be somebody that gets, like Michael gets 200 emails a day. I get 10. So having somebody that knows, like, okay, what kind of emails, how do you respond? What does that look like? Because you're going to set up your out of office, but there may be things in there that need to be addressed or maybe not.
Yeah. So we started communicating this about a month prior, and making sure everyone was tight on their job duties and descriptions. And me and Courtney at this point in time, we're still doing some things in the business from a task standpoint, as far as like what you said, like emails, texting customers. I mean, we probably talk, to 300 to 400 customers a day on average. And so, texting them, communicating, obviously getting training scheduled, all that good stuff. And so our goal was to stress test the business. So that's why we decided to disconnect, not why, we wanted to disconnect for our personal selves to really strengthen our relationship. Obviously, when we travel, that is where a portion of our investments go every single year to invest in ourselves. When we travel, learning new culture, allows the creative juices to go, allows us to talk about our future goals. But when you're still responsible for task, it blocks that. And so that's primarily why we wanted to disconnect, but we also wanted to disconnect to stress test the business. Like, great, we've been working for the last 6 months to really lay this foundational piece. We believe we have the right team in place. We have the point of contact. Let's see how this goes. And it went amazing. I mean, so we delegated every task we were doing, checking our emails, our text messages, setting up the trainings, making sure the podcasts were good to go. We delegated everything, and we came back, and guess what? It's like rainbows and sunshines, man. Like, I came back to less than an hour of work.
Okay.
After 3 weeks.
So I want to set them up a little bit more on, because there's more to this than what you've said, just a little bit. And I want to make sure that I dive into this.
Well, let's dive into it. What am I missing here?
So expectations when we return. Okay. So any open projects that we have. So if you're working a big case or if you have something in the works, you need to communicate that. And then what is worst case scenario? If we come back and none of these things have been completed, you have to communicate that. Like, where do you expect open projects or things that you're working, or what is your expectation when you return? The other thing you want to communicate is, what authority does that single point of contact have? Because, I mean, I remember very vividly a story when we were in agency where we had a situation happen in our office, and he knew that he had authority to fire that person on the spot. You have to communicate that.
For sure.
Because they don't know, like, if there's an altercation, what can I or can I not do in this situation? So I think that is important. I think the integration back too. Jody did a great job. So before we left, we had, like, also communicating all of your points of contact, your emergency contact. Here's our, insurance person, here's our accountant, here's this, all of that stuff, making sure that that's all easily accessible. But also when you come back, this is what happened while you were gone. And she did a great job of, like, high level email. And then we had a pretty in-depth, I mean, it was a full day meeting.
Yeah, we sit down for 6 hours.
And went through, like, okay, this is what I noticed. It's refreshing, especially for somebody like me, a control freak, to have somebody else look at it and go, this is what you need to do, or please stop doing this. This is not effective.
Yes, I mean, she found, I don't want to call holes in the business, but she found some situations within the business that was not okay.
Yeah.
That we've empowered her to take care of it. Like, bam, take care of it. Like, no big deal. Like, which was, that's an amazing feeling when you come back from being off for 3 weeks and it's like, hey, everything ran and I figured out a more efficient way to run the business.
And that's what you want, because if not, at least for me, I'm going to jump back in and I'm going to do it my way. And my way might not be the most efficient. It might not be the most effective. And it's definitely not going to get me where I want to go in a growth aspect. So that's where we're at.
Absolutely. So
I'm recovering.
We both are, and this is why we wanted to talk about this today. So this was on our hearts because everyone's goal for their business is going to be totally different, and we understand that. Maybe you always want to be in the day to day. Maybe you never want to be in the day to day. I don't know, but I think the only way to really figure out if you have the SOPs in place, if you have the team in place, if you have done a great job of delegating and empowering, is to actually stress test your business. Like, what happens if your team can't communicate with you for an extended amount of time? What happens if you're not logging into your email? What are the customers? Like, who's going to take that over? Like, stress test your business to really figure out where could we improve, where could we be more efficient, where could we add value to not only your customers but also your organization. And so that's why we wanted to talk about this today, because sometimes we're a little bit more hands-on than maybe we should be, and now we are stepping back into the business, and our roles in 2023 look drastically different based off of what we learned over that 3-week period of being totally disconnected to the business. And I believe that that's what's going to really, really help us get to where we want to go from a big goal standpoint, is our new roles in 2023.
Well, I think it's important too to unplug from the matrix and really just be with your family and the people that you love and out in the world and doing things. That's the whole reason why we do what we do, is
create a life and build a business or career around it, right?
Yeah, create your life first. So I think it's important, even if it's just for a day, take a step back, close the laptop. I mean, get away from the phone and look up, because there are beautiful, wonderful people who have made your life a life, and they're waiting on you. And you'd be surprised what happens when you empower the people around you in your organization, where you see how incredible you're doing. Regardless of what you're telling yourself right now, you're absolutely crushing it. So I'm so excited for 2023. I'm going to keep taking steps back so I don't keep jumping into it, because we have the best team and they're doing a killer job.
I'm going to be your accountability partner. So
yeah, that was like this morning. You're like, you better get up. 2023, we got goals. I was like, oh, it's a little cold and chilly. Here we go.
All right, my friends, we appreciate you. If you guys have any questions about anything we talked about today, shoot us a text, 816-727-7610. If you want to be updated with like the podcast episodes, when you text that number, #thebuzz. But we have quite a few people text us from podcast episodes. So if you have questions, comments, whatever, text that number. Other than that, as always, time is the most valuable and important asset that we all have. We appreciate you spending time with us. Go out and make it great.